The first incarnation of Labor's minerals tax cost a Prime Minister his job and nearly undid a government. Now a humbler version is before the Senate and it should pass with the support of the Greens. The tax is still slated to raise more than $10 billion over the next few years, and it will need to because hanging off it are a series of large promises, like a cut to the company tax rate and paying for the lower tax take embedded in the commitment to lifting compulsory superannuation. To discuss it, the Finance Minister joined me a short time ago. Penny Wong, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Is it possible that the minerals tax won't raise enough money to cover the costs of the promises that you've made?
Oh, look, we factored the minerals tax expenditure into the budget bottom line as well as the revenue, and that includes the budget coming back to surplus in 12-13. But what we do know is we do need the minerals tax in order to be able to do good things like reducing the company tax rate for Australia's small businesses, something I would have thought the opposition would want to support, but they're opposing it.
When you look at the cost of something like that, though, it starts at $331 million for small businesses next year and grows, and of course other companies are included in that. And on top of that, you also have the superannuation promises. It looks like in the first couple of years you've got about $10 billion worth of revenue and about $10 billion worth of costs. Is that right?
Well, look, we have factored in both the revenue and expenditure of our commitments into the budget bottom line in the budget going forward. But what we do know is we do need to pass the minerals tax in this session of the Parliament. We do need to make sure we have that revenue stream which enables us to do the things you talked about. And let's remember what they are. Reducing the company tax rate across the board with a head start for small business, good for business. Extraordinary that the opposition are going to vote against a tax cut for small business. Supporting more superannuation for working Australians, particularly low-income Australians, a great Labor reform, and we're using the benefits of the boom, wealthy miners' profits, to pay for this very good policy. And
yet your tax will bounce around depending on movements in the exchange rate and on commodity prices, but the kinds of things that you're going to be spending money on, for example the super changes, are permanent, as is the cost of the business tax cuts. So are you not putting yourself a bit at risk there?
Well, as I have said again, we have factored the revenue and these commitments into the budget bottom line. Of course, there are swings and roundabouts in most revenue streams, and this is one that is based, as you say, on a range of factors. But we've assessed those and we've looked at what we need to fund, and what's critical here is the principle. The principle being, do we think wealthy miners should pay a bit more tax in order to enable government to help other Australians, small businesses, working Australians with their superannuation? That's the principle, and on this the opposition only has one answer, and that answer is no. They'd rather protect the profits of wealthy miners.
One final point on this though, have you fully factored in the costs of the rise in royalties of states which you've promised to cover?
Look, we've made announcements about that, and the Treasurer's also made very clear that any subsequent royalties from the date of the announcement he made would be reflected in those states getting less of the infrastructure funding. But can I say this to the states? If we have a profits-based tax, such as the MRRT passed, it doesn't make sense to continue to have volumetric-based taxation in royalties. It's not an efficient way to tax. The Henry Review made that clear. It's time we made sure we worked together to sufficiently spread the benefits of the boom, and that's why the government will press forward with the MRRT. We look forward to the support of the Senate. It's passed the House, and I hope we see it supported in the Senate very soon.
You would never expect, though, that the states will give up a revenue base, will you, particularly given it's guaranteed in the Constitution?
What I'd say is this: we've made clear our views on this issue. As you know, the Treasurer's also asked the GST review panel to have a look at this issue. We do need to resolve this. We wanted to have the discussion with the states, but it needs to be resolved in the national interest. And as I said, a profits-based tax is much more economically efficient, much more sensible than a volumetric tax such as royalties.
And just to be clear on this, will the company tax cut promised to small business come in as scheduled on the 1st of July?
The government remains absolutely committed to delivering a business tax cut with a small business tax cut by 1st of July. That's why we want the minerals tax passed in this session of the Parliament.
And the company tax cut for larger businesses will come in a year after that?
That is the government's commitment. I tell you what, we can guarantee we'll support this. The people who will guarantee they'll vote against tax cuts for small business and tax cuts for the broader economy are, of course, Mr Abbott and his colleagues in the Senate. What they can guarantee, the only thing they can guarantee, is that they're there to protect the profits of wealthy miners. It's a very wrong-headed way of approaching this issue.
The carbon tax, of course, will kick in from the 1st of July. It's set to be at $23 a tonne, while the price in Europe is $10 a tonne. Why isn't the difference in that just simply a dead weight on Australian businesses?
A couple of points I'd make about the carbon price. The first, it's not unexpected, is it, that given the events in Europe that you would see some fluctuation in the carbon price, and the carbon price currently reflects that. But let's remember a couple of things. The first is the government's got a lot of assistance to support jobs, to support the competitiveness of Australian industry in our clean energy package. A very substantial amount of free permits to reflect the fact that these export industries do trade in global markets, so we have recognised that. The second point I made, the opposition put that question to me and other ministers all the time, and I'd make this point. If they care about a high carbon price, why is it they're supporting a policy where you would see an effective carbon price that's far higher? That's far higher for the Australian economy, and that's what the Treasury has said. I mean, the bizarre thing about this is the opposition claim they care about the economy and the effect of the carbon price on it. Their policy would impose more cost on taxpayers and cost the economy more.
Penny Wong, thank you.
Good to be with you.